Hey guys, today we are out trying out a new set of film simulations for Canon cameras, and I'm kind of jumpy because I'm right next to a trail, but I just found this piece of, I don't know what you call it in Sweden, we call it a glänta. Anyway, so I hope that no one comes by while I'm standing here talking by myself or talking to you. Anyway, if you're new to film simulations, they're basically like your standard portrait, landscape, neutral, and standard picture profiles or picture styles. That's what Canon calls them. But film simulations usually have a bit more of a creative look to them, and a lot of people prefer to shoot with film simulations because well, first of all, it has that creative look to it, and you can also treat shots done with film simulations more like shooting with actual film. So maybe you don't want to spend a whole lot of time editing in post. You can basically snap a bunch of pictures and upload those straight to social media or what have you. I have done a bunch of videos that shows you how you install these on your camera, and I will link some of those up below. So if you're new to film simulations, take a look at those videos if you have more questions, or just put your questions into the comment section down below. The pack that we're trying out today is kind of loosely based on Fujifilm's Astia, which is one of my favorite film simulations, especially this time of year with all the greenery and all the colors and everything outside. It handles colors quite well, and at the same time it's not overly dramatic when it comes to saturation like Velvia, for instance. I've also used it a ton for things like product photography. I shot a pair of shoes a while back ago where I used the Astia film simulation as my kind of base profile for those shots. So that's basically what we're trying out today. There's going to be 3 different profiles or film simulations in this pack. One is going to be called Astia Pop. One is going to be called, or is called, Astia Retro, while the third one is called Astia Vintage. And you can probably tell the differences between these different profiles by just the name, but I still want to give you a couple of examples to give you a better idea of what to expect when you're shooting with these picture styles. Cray. Let's grab some stills of or some video of my favorite tree here. Now, I wanted to talk just briefly about white balance because I think it's the most common question that I get from most of you people out there shooting with these film simulations. And I think there's 2 reasons to why you might be struggling to find the correct white balance. The first reason is that, well, take a look at this side by side here. On the left we have a shot with Canon, and on the right we have the same shot and the same control lighting done with the Fujifilm. And if we zoom into the gray checkers here on the Canon shot, you can see how they almost shifts into more of a beige color instead of being like neutral gray. And yeah, Canon likes to put some warmth into the colors. That's one of the reasons why we tend to appreciate Canon colors so much, because they do have this extra little warmth to them in a lot of cases. So if you're shooting with these film simulations, you're not going to have that same amount of warmth. I've done my best to make these simulations to look as close to the original as possible, whether it's film or whether it's a film simulation on another Fujifilm camera, that kind of stuff. So you will obviously not have the same amount of warmth in your colors, and it will take just a tiny bit of time for your eyes to kind of adjust to this new way of rendering colors, especially neutrals and that kind of stuff. So I think that's one of the main issues that people run into, and they start playing around a lot with white balance. And you can do that obviously if you like to, but I typically let my camera just sit on daylight white balance. I don't do any tweaks to white balance when I'm developing these profiles. If I would, it would be more complicated for you guys to find the exact same settings depending on the different cameras you use and what kind of options you have on your camera to do to adjust your white balance and that kind of stuff. So all of these are just done with standard daylight white balance on Canon. The second reason why there might be some differences between the examples that I've shown you in some of my past videos is because I'm a hybrid shooter, so sometimes I use a variable ND filter on my camera, and we all know that variable NDs and ND filters in general will give you some sort of a color shift. It's kind of hard to completely get around that. And in the past, I've done kind of 50-50 between reference shots without any variable ND and 50% with a variable ND, and I've tried to kind of find a nice balance there. So this here, the Astia pack, is the first film simulation pack that I've developed completely without using any variable ND filters. Still, I do recommend that if you have a variable ND filter, to just try to shoot stills with a variable ND. It's nice to have a slightly higher ISO when you're shooting out in bright daylight, because you will have more details in the shadow areas of your images, and since we're working in a well-lit environment, you're not going to run into problems with grain or noise and that kind of stuff. But even then, I can sometimes appreciate the noise you'll get when you crank your ISO up just a little too high and you introduce some of that noise into your images. On most of these film simulations, that noise can often look quite a lot like film grain, so that's something you can experiment with as well. But yeah, just wanted to touch on that white balance thing here, because I know a lot of people are asking me questions about white balance adjustments and that kind of stuff. And feel free to play around and experiment. You can use the standard daylight, or you could also, like we talked about in this video here, put your white balance into the flash white balance preset. That will give you a bit more warmth to the images if you like that. But you know, try to get used to having less warmth in your colors, because that's one of the interesting things with these film simulations, to have something that looks kind of completely different from what you're used to. Anyway, let's grab some more samples. I wish smell-o-vision was invented. These smell so nice. Now, if you're a longtime fan of this channel, you might recognize this tree. It's lost a few of its limbs, and maybe it'll be the last summer that I'm able to shoot something with this tree. I've done a huge amount of product shoots and what have you with this tree here as a prop. But we're not here to talk about trees. I wanted to talk about exposure. Don't get too hung up on your exposure needles or your histogram. Work with what you're seeing on your EVF or on the back of your camera if you're shooting with live mode, and base your exposure decisions based on that instead of relying too heavily on your exposure meters on your camera. It will give you more keepers and better exposed images if you just go with what you see instead of what the exposure tools tell you to do or change. So yeah. And as always, these film simulations are going to be 100% free for you to download. There's going to be a download link in the description of this video. And if you want to, you can always leave a little donation at the checkout. If you can't, that's perfectly fine. But what I would appreciate even more is if you take the time to give these film simulations a little rating or a little review. There's a place on the page where you can do that. That will also help me out a lot, getting these in front of more people and hopefully make more people's shooting more fun and exciting. But that's gonna be it, and I hope these film simulations in this new pack will make your shooting this summer a lot more fun, a lot more creative. So have a ton of fun with these, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye. Right now we have, oh shoot, I have the speed booter. I have the old speed booter on her.